So today we have a very renowned monk, Venerable Dr. Anil Sakya with us. Basically, he is from Nepal. वो नेपाल के रहने वाले हैं और 14 साल की उम्र में, at the age of 14, he become uh, he became a novice, and then he went to Thailand, and there he was ordained as a bhikkhu. He did his graduation in Thailand only, and then post graduation in Kathmandu. Then again, he went to do his post graduation in Cambridge University in anthropology, and then he did his PhD from Brunei University, UK. From Brunel University, UK. He also acted as the Assistant Secretary to Supreme Patriarch of Thailand, and as of now, he is a Deputy Rector of Mahamakut University. Mahamakut University is one of the largest university. It is basically for the monks. They teach monks, and there are two universities. One is MCU, and another is MBU. So this is Mahamakut Buddhist University, where Dr. Anil Sakya, he teaches the monk. He would be joining us very shortly, and let me tell you that Venerable Anil Sakya is from the same clan of that of Buddha. So he also belongs to the Sakya clan, of which we know that King Shuddhodhan was a Sakya. So he also, Dr. Anil Sakya, Venerable Anil Sakya, belongs to that clan. So we are very fortunate to have with us Venerable Dr. Anil Sakya. I would request you to seriously listen to his talk. He is extremely good. He has traveled quite a lot abroad. He goes to many seminars and delivers very forthright, opinions. And you can actually ask him some questions if you're in mind. Actually, we have received some of the questions which we have shared with him. He would be answering some of them, and maybe during, if we get some time, maybe we can answer. We can actually ask him some more questions. So, may I now request to take Venerable online, please? And after I finish his introduction, I would request to take me off the screen.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon, Bante. Venerable, I can hear you, but I am yet to see your picture. Yeah, yes.
Good, fine.
Vandami Bante, good afternoon. This is Dr. Harshdeep Kamble.
Happy Vesak.
Yeah, same to you, Bante.
Good afternoon on this very special occasion of the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing away of the Buddha. Internationally, it is known as Vesak Day. However, in South Asian context, we always known it as a Buddha Jayanti. Of course, when we think about the Buddha Jayanti or the Vesak Day, generally for someone who is a Buddhist might think that it is a Buddhist celebration. Of course, it is a Buddhist celebration because after all, it is a day when the founder of Buddhism was born, was enlightened, and passed away. However, our Buddha is in a very special position, I guess, as the birth of the Buddha, the Vesak Day or the Buddha Jayanti is not only celebrated among Buddhists alone. These days, since 1999, we knew that even the United Nations organization already announced and acknowledged as a world important day, because after all, Buddha is the personality which we always go with hand in hand with the idea of a peace and harmony, and after all, the word happiness. Buddha, who was born in Nepal and made his career in India, and his message was all over the world. And his message is not only admired by Buddhists alone, even non-believer in Buddhism, even someone who never heard of the Buddha or never think of adhering the Buddha's teaching. But what happened is that in their life, in the teachings or in their study, they might have chance to learn about Buddhism in one way or another. Buddha is known among the world in many different ways. Especially this year, we are in a very dire situation. The plague virus named Corona, or the COVID-19, it is really hitting hard the whole world. The global pandemic of coronavirus, it's really disturbed the way of our living. Of course, the most very important and hard hit issue is our public health. Many died of this virus and died so quickly as we are not prepared for it. But secondly, it is not only the public health we are facing such a challenge. With the coronavirus, it is also hitting so hard with the economy. So that's why at the moment we are seeing that, or we are talking that, whom should we fear of? Whether we should scare of the coronavirus, or we should be worried about, we should be worried and very difficult to find even a meal for a day. So these challenges is not only challenge of one country, one nation, but it become a global challenge. It's become something every human being in the world is concerned. So in this way, how can we challenge? How can we celebrate it? How can we celebrate the Vesak, the founder of the birthday of the Buddhas, or the founder of Buddhism? And of course, when there is a question, when there is a challenge, we always find a solution. I guess this is a nature of human. And as we are brave human, as we are always challenging ourselves to go through the crisis of every time, just as to what Buddha had taught us. Buddha have given such an idea even 2,600 years ago that life is a crisis. Life is a challenge. Dukkha is a challenge. Dukkha is a crisis. It is nothing about going to the next world. It is nothing that we are expecting what we do this life and then go to receive it at the next life. The whole idea of a Buddha Dhamma, the whole idea of what we call Buddhism is all about challenging day-to-day life. Because we are amidst of the crisis. We are challenged by all kinds of challenges. Forget about Corona. Corona is the only one pandemic which we are facing at the moment. But if you go back and look at the history, it is clearly seen that even time of the Buddha, it was in India when plague was a big problem. So that's why in the text we can hear the Ratana Sutta, the discourse on the jewels, which was chanted in order to calm the outcome of the pandemic at the time. It was a kind of pandemic created by similar virus, I guess, because it was said in the first stanza of the Ratana Sutta itself that Yani da bhutani samagatani bhummani va yani va antalike. What does it really mean? Yani da bhutani. Of course, when we hear the word bhutani, we think it is something about this supernatural. It is something about the ghost. It is something about the bhut. But if we know the language, either be in Sanskrit, either be in a Pali, the bhuta simply means that being. Being which include the visible being and invisible being. I guess with the case of Corona is some kind of being which categorized under invisible being. We have to use a microscope to be able to see that. With our naked eyes, of course, we don't see the virus, and that's why it's make us so scary. So what is the advice we can get from the Buddha then? What is the advice we can draw from the Ratana Sutta then? For someone who believes in the power of Ratana Sutta, they may go for lengthy chanting and then hoping that the power of that chanting will heal us. Maybe it could. But if we understand the essence of the sutta itself, then we will understand that it is not as we think. When we chant the sutta, if we scrutinize the essence of the sutta itself, it is clearly said that the first of all, we have to understand the nature of the virus itself. We have to understand the nature of bhutani, how it works. For example, we know that how COVID-19 works with human, how it spread. So if we know how it works, then we were able to prevent the impact from the virus itself. In that stance, Buddha says that we have to treat with it as a loving kindness. Not to treat it as a friend, but as a virus which we don't know how it came, but it is having a greater impact upon us. But if we understand the nature of it, I guess we can live side by side. There are so many bacteria, there are so many viruses in this world, and we are living with that. But when we understand the nature of it, we can live it peacefully. And that is what we are searching for. How are we going to live peacefully with such a virus? In order to do that, Buddha gave simple solution that if something happened in this case, in this scale of pandemic, which even keep us apart from celebrating the International Vesak, celebrating such an important day for among us. Originally, we were planning to come and see you in India. But the coronavirus keep us apart. But I think with this kind of communication using the technology, I would say that we are victorious over Corona. Although Corona trying to keep us apart, but we have all the tools and mechanism and way that we can still be together. So when we think about the word alone, which is a very important vocabulary in the global pandemic at the moment, because the main problem with the global pandemic of Corona is that we have to be aware that we keep social distancing. Unfortunately, as a human, we become so used to intermingle. We become so used to be socially engaged. And we thought that that is our life. But if we really look at it, when we were born, do we born in a group? I guess not. When we were born, we born alone. And when we were born, are we happy? Again, I guess we are not. Because the first symbol we see with each birth of a boy, a girl, is the cry, the voice of a cry. If we are happy, I guess that we should be born with a big smile. But we are never. I have never seen and I have never heard any case that we born with a big smile on our face. But every human being, when they're born, they cry. That is already telling us the truth of what human all about. Since the day we walk out from the mother's womb, it is already crisis. When we are in the mother's womb, I guess that we are protected by our mother. But as soon as we are walking out from our womb, all the security is gone. And everyone's life have to fight for themselves. So this is the great lesson Buddha taught us. So that's why Buddha says that the birth is suffering. The birth is suffering. To run a life is suffering. So basically what we're all about is this crisis. So therefore, in a way, when we are in such a crisis, the most importantly, we have to think through and then try to get over such a problem. So I would like to bring back such a message, what we can get from the Buddha's teaching. In one of the Buddha's teaching, Buddha says that in order to come over any crisis, in order to come over any problem, whether it is a big or small, we have to develop our mindset in 4 different stages. The first stage of our mind set we have to develop is that Patisankhana bala. What does it mean? Patisankhana bala basically means that it is a power of computations. We need to develop such a power that we see things thoroughly in our life, in our daily life. We are taken away with all the power of so many things. And especially, we are always taken aback by the power of greed, the power of aversion, the power of delusion. Not only that, we always think that we are great, we know a lot, we are smarter. I know, I got such and such a degree. But sometimes We know that all the world's affairs, what is going in America, what is going in China, what is going in Russia, what is going in Europe, what is going in Thailand. We talk about the Buddhism in the world, and we thought that we know a lot. Well, you might be true. You know a lot, but nothing of yourself. Because the whole idea of learning so many subjects, so many topics, is just to know yourself. Because you, as a human, is so intricate that it is difficult to understand yourself. So that is why Buddha's wisdom is, how do we know yourself? Or how do I know myself? As Mr. Harshdeep has said that, in my life, I was a novice at the age of 14. And throughout my life, I was able to achieve with what I call the most people's dream of having a PhD from the prestigious university. Of course, I got it. But what makes me a human? What makes me a simple monk as I am now? Is that with a degree? With that is the knowledge I get again from the university? Or is that something I relate? Who am I with you guys who is in India at the moment? It is not a degree. It is a care and love and compassion we are sharing in this very critical moment. And this is how we are celebrating a Buddha Jayanti. Because after all, Buddha Jayanti is all about celebrating yourself, celebrating who you are, knowing who you are. If you know who you are, then you are eligible to celebrate. Because there is no such thing as you or I, after all. So any problem, any crisis, when it hit like this, so Buddha asks us to bring all the power among us and compute it and think through it. Look at it as one of the challenges we have to go through. Of course, that is not only the doctrine, it is not only theory. At the moment we are facing such a problem, how we are going through this pandemic. So you have to think wide. You just can't think in a one dimension. We have to think in a multi-dimension, what is called a prajna or the panya in the Pali. Because the word prajna or in panya in the Pali basically means that knowledge from the multi-dimensional knowledge. We need to develop that skill at the moment. Once we are able to develop that skill and able to see through things, especially at the moment, the coronavirus, then immediately we will have an energy to fight with that, to get over that problem, to get over that crisis. So that's why the power of development, bhavana bala, is another step we have to develop in our mindset. Because when we realize that the dukkha is a problem, first of all, we have to identify it is a problem. Once we see that is a problem, then we will find a solution. Or we will find the cause of the problem first. Once we find the cause of the problem, then we will have to find the solution, the bhavana bala. So you need to have that power. But however, in order to stop that problem, you have an ability of computing, you have an ability of development, but both computation and development has to be make sure that it is anavacca bala, which means that it is not corrupted. It is pure. It doesn't give byproduct, wrong byproduct. Imagine a lot of development projects these days. When we think that we want to develop something, but end up destroying a lot of other things. And that is what we call development. So that's why some scholar even say that the foundation of a development is a destruction. So whether you think that this development is good or not, for sure, you have to destroy something in order to have a new one. So therefore, you have to make sure that the power, what you have to develop at the moment, in order to develop some things, that your mind has to be not corrupt. When you talk about the corruptions, it has become a big, big problem. Not only in India, but all over the world. Because when we think of corruptions, the corrupt basically means that when you do, when you think, when you speak, you always see you before others. That is a word corrupt, actually very meaning. So whether you see yourself before others is something very scary, because you are not seeing yourself in relevant to others. Buddha says that who you are who you are is totally dependent on someone else or something else. That is a whole teaching of Pratitya Samuppada, dependent origination. So therefore, in order to solve this problem, we have to have what we call is the power of computation, Patisankhana Bala, then Bhavana Bala, when we have to have this dedication and develop to come over that crisis or that problem. And the way we have to go through is that by our mind is a very pure mind, is not corrupted. But last and not least, is something we have to always think that why are we doing all those things? So you need to have a fourth power. What is that fourth power? Fourth power is Sangha Bala, which basically means that the power of helping others, the power of compassion. Compassion becomes a key message here. Imagine what is compassion all about. In most of the secular world, if you are going for something what we call success, you are always taught that you have to build up what he calls passion towards that. Of course, if you want to pass your exam, you have to be passionate with that. If you want to success in your business, you have to be passionate on that. If you want to win over someone's heart, you have to be passionate with that boy or that girl. That is true. But that is only half true, because you are looking from your own side. You are looking as an egocentric idea. So that's why Buddha says that in some kind of a success, it is true that we need to have a passion. However, that passion has to be founded on the way we are living in society. So that's why we have to be passion. Our self-passion has to be always linked with the other people who are living together with us. So that's why it has to change, or it has to expand it, our self-passion to the common passion. And that is the word compassion all about. So it is another egocentric. The self is secure. Self is peace and happy, because the way the self is going to relate with whoever, wherever. So if you create the surroundings in a way very amicable, in a way that is peaceful, in a way that is more happy, it means that you are making yourself happy too, together with all the people who is surrounding you. So this is the very important message at the moment we need it. So in order to celebrate a Vesak as an International Day of Vesak, not only in a way of celebrating the birthday of the Buddha, a founder of Buddhism, But bring that and celebrate yourself. Celebrate the way how you look at yourself. Look at the Vesak day as a day for opening your eyes. Buddha says that there is a Buddha, means that awakening. But in many times we are not a Buddha, but we are Buddhu. We are stupid to look at ourselves. So the very Vesak day is basically means that we have to develop the idea of looking at yourself, to understand yourself, who you are, how you are dealing with the things, and so and so. This is a very important message of the Vesak. Vesak, when we think about the Buddha, it was the birth of the Buddha. Imagine why we are celebrating a birth of the Prince Siddhartha Buddha. Because it is so important in a way that it is the story of the Buddha is so close to our heart. Buddha is not a god. Buddha is not a supernatural. Buddha is not a Rama, not Vishnu, not a Brahma, not a Jesus, not Allah. Buddha is simple human being, just like me, just like you, and just like anyone who is watching this. But he's different in some way. He's different in some way, in a way that since the day he was born, he was determined. Since the day he was born, he was perseverance. Since the day he was born, he wanted to improve himself from the whatever the status he is in. Of course, he was born as a prince, but he was not satisfied with status, because he was not satisfied with the something we always satisfy with actually. Because in our life, imagine, we earn a lot of money, and with the money, we go and build up our power. And suddenly, we stuck in this money and power, wealth and power. The wealth bring power, power bring wealth, and so, and suddenly see we stuck on this vicious circle, and we are never able to come out. We thought that being a rich is a good thing. We thought that being a prime minister, being a military, so and so, is a good thing. But Buddha says that it could be good, but it is not because of richness. It is not because of your position and power. The goodness is come from your heart. The goodness is coming from your behavior towards society. It is not a jat. It is not our varna, which makes you good or bad. It is our karma, which makes us good or bad. Then our karma is always has to be founded on compassion as well, because we are living with others. When we are living with others, if we are so selfish, how are we going to live with others? It will create more problem. So therefore, this is the message what we get from the birth of the Buddha. We all born equal. Everyone, when we are born, cried. I guess even the Prince Siddhartha, when he was born, he also cried just like us. But his cry, his voice of cry is more louder than us, because he have an aim in his life. He has a goal in his life. So therefore, with the incidents of the Buddha's birth, we have to think that who we are then. Our friend Prince Siddhartha, who was able to go through all these crises, and why can't we? Because when we're born, we are not different than the Prince Siddhartha. We are born out of womb of our mother, just as the Prince Siddhartha get out of the womb of Mahamaya, Queen Mahamaya. So therefore, the first idea of the bird is that all humans are equal, but we can be a better human through our perseverance. Imagine, that is a great message we have to think on this Vesak. So what is the aim of your life? What can you change? What can you do to change this world in a more peaceful way, in a more happier way? Not only yourself, but of course, if you think of yourself in relevant with others, that is the matter. Then, what about the Buddha's awakening? When he says that Buddhato, or when he became a Buddha, that is enlightenment, that is awakening. It is opening your eyes, it's opening of the eyes of the Buddha, awakening Buddha. And we are still sleeping, you see. Although our eyes are open, but we are always in sleep mood. We never knew that we are awake. We never knew that when you see things, you never see the things. Whatever you see through your eyes, you always see the way you want to see. You never see the way the object or the things which is. When you see a box, you see it in the way you like to see it. You never see a box which is just a simple box, which is a combination of this and that, it makes a box. No. When you see a box, your imagination goes on. I can bring that box to put my jewelry, to put my this. I can use this in that way. So you never see the reality of the box itself. So the Buddha's enlightenment awakening is that open your eyes and able to see the reality of the world. So imagine that. The message Buddha has given on this International Day of Vesak is something that we are always very sleepy, always in sleep. Buddha says that it is time to wake up. Put your alarm and wake up and see the truth. What is going on around you? What is going on inside your mind? So when you try to see that, then you might be able to realize, you might be able to understand your thought. You are able to understand the reality around you. So that is something, a very important message in the Vesak. Of course, when after the Buddha's enlightenment, for 45 years he went through state after state, village after village. For what? For the benefit of the many, for the happiness of the many, for understanding of others' suffering, with the understanding of others' suffering, with a compassion to the world. You see, when we think of the Buddha, he was not never selfish. For some people, they thought that Buddha is sometimes in a selfish mood. For example, one of the questions is that we read in the life of the Buddha that after the enlightenment of the Buddha, Buddha was reluctant to teach. Of course, that might be true in some sense. But what do you mean by reluctant? What do you mean by his mind is not full of compassion? I don't think so. But imagine all the situation of the society at the time. What he thought was totally against the grain of the world view or the view of the time at the time, especially with the Brahmanism, especially with the Jainism. So the majority of the people always think that in order to get peace and happiness, you have to please God. But suddenly Buddha was saying that no, there is no such thing as a God. The Godness is within yourself. You can improve yourself to be God here and now, not in the heaven somewhere we are not seeing. If you behave like a God, you are God. It is not only human, but you can be a God, a human God. Imagine in our life we have seen many people who have this quality of godness. So Buddha says that is something what we need to develop. So open up your eyes and see that. So when he was he reluctant to teach that? No. What happened is that when he was just awakened and he thought that, okay, my knowledge is so deep, my knowledge is so complicated compared to the general understanding. How am I going to convince those people and see the things as I see? So that makes Buddha a little bit a challenge. So that's why what we call reluctant. But however, in a few seconds, Buddha changed his mind that in fact, I might try, because there are so many categories and qualifications of the people. What we call is 4 lotuses. But actually, in the Tripitaka, it is only 3 lotuses. The 3 types of people are that some people are so smart enough just to hint, just to give small hint, they might be able to understand very clearly, very quickly. Just like a lotus, we're just waiting for the sunshine. When the sun shines, immediately bloom. So there are such kind of people, which is easily understandable. How complicated is that? Doesn't matter. The second type of lotus or person is that we have to give a little bit of a care. Imagine the lotus is under the water. There's a lot of insecurity in that lotus. It could be fallen to be a meal for some kind of creatures. So we have to take care. We have to keep on teaching, guiding, but still can bloom at the end of the day. And some, of course, you need a lot of care, just like a lotus bud. It is very juicy. It is a very nice as a meal for some creatures. So that's why in order to wait and nurture it until it is ready to bloom, you might have to pay more attention and perseverance. That's all. But every single human being is able to teach. Purisa Dhamma Sarati. So therefore, Buddha was reluctant. Yes, in some way. He was thinking hard that how I'm going to teach. But as he realized the truth that there are so many kind of personality, human, and he changed his mind and went forward to teach. So therefore, Buddha's enlightenment and the way he taught for 45 years is that he never think of himself, but he think of the world relating with him. Because imagine, when we think of whatever subject, whatever country, whatever issue we are thinking, first of all, we have to have I. And then when you are there, you make all those stories by yourself. So therefore, you have to relate yourself with others, which is totally different from the way the Indian society at the time. Because Indian society at the time was so hierarchical in a way that it is very difficult to think in this way. So that's the reluctance the Buddha was facing at the time. But he came over that problem by seeing the nature of a human as a one human. It is not only the intellectual quality we might have to develop. So that is something we think as a Buddha's birth. So his birth is not only giving that opportunity that we can go through all the crises, we can achieve the way, the goal we are wanted. But at the same time, we have to think in a more majority and able to see things as they really are. Not only that, for after 45 years, he passed away and become parinibbana in Kushinara. When he was parinibbana, of course, again he taught us that appamadena sampadeta. What it really meant. He summarized all his teaching, 45 volumes of Tripitaka, 45 years of his teaching experience. He taught in a single word, that is to be mindful. be cautious to all this changing world. So we are facing the crisis of this coronavirus. And then that is our challenge. Buddha said 2,600 years ago in the Vesak day that the world is impermanent. So we have to be ready to accept what is the impermanence we are facing all about. If we have this mindful, if we are ready to change, if we are ready to understand what we are challenging, what we are facing, then of course we might come with the wisdom how to come over that problem. So therefore, when we think of the Buddha's teaching in the Vesak day, we have to think in the one message is the mindfulness, to be mindful with whatever things, the thought, the speech, we are committing every minute, every second, and every day. To be able to know yourself relating with others. Because my word, if I'm speaking alone in my room without this technology, of course, it doesn't matter. Some might address me as a crazy monk, that's all, because I'm able to speak alone in the room. But apart from that, it is another something matter to the world. But although I'm speaking in the same spree, but with this technology, I don't know how many of you in India is hearing me. So every voice, every noise, every word I make, I have to take my responsibility. I have to think in a way that what is the impact it will give you to all the audience. So when you're able to think that, that is a Buddhist way of thinking, you see. That is trying to put yourself in amidst of the community and society. And that is the message of the Vesak. It's a very important Vesak. That's why I always say that Vesak is something very important, and then we might just simply give a new meaning of the word Vesak in a one way or another. For example, in one of the conference, I gave a new meaning of Vesak. What is that? Vesak has to be V for virtuous, E for enlightenment, is S for successful, A for awakening of, and K for knowledge. Because Buddhism is a religion of wisdom after all. So Vesak is very meaningful in a way that it is a day we wake, we open our eyes, able to see the Dharma. So today is Vesak. I'm urging all the audience, all the Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike, and the Buddhists alike, through this media, saying that the greatest celebration of the Buddha's day as a Vesak day is that able to try to open your eyes and see the Dharma. Dharma is basically the truth of sustainability. The Dharma is means that upholding what? Upholding the reality, upholding the whole balance between our health and wealth at the moment. So if you can do that, we can call it a celebration. So if we put in the perspective of the Vesak, I would say that we have a 3 event happen on the Vesak day. That is a birth, which basically means that the Buddha, which basically means that awakening. The enlightenment is another word is for the Dharma, and Dharma basically from etymological point is the balance you make between a good and bad, but balance in living your life. And the date of the Buddha is actually created another whole impact in the society we call Sangha, the community of the Buddhists or community of any kind. The Sangha is actually a community. So that's why I always present Vesak Puja Day is a ABC Buddhism Day. It is a true meaning of Vesak is actually ABC of Buddhism. Birth is awakening. The awakening or the enlightenment is making our life balanced, able to see the balance in our life. And how we balance? By making a balance within yourself and the community, the Sangha. So this is the greatest message I say that we need to develop in this idea of the Vesak. Some of the question I got through our communication is that, why do misery like corona epidemics are being suffered by human beings, killing so many of them in the world? What is the explanation in Buddhism for this? There is a very important explanation in Buddhism about the death of human being. Buddha says that there are 4 causes of a human death. Ayukaya, which means that your lifespan has ended. Your age has ended, or your energy to live has ended. That is one cause. Kammakaya, your action is ended. Whatever you do, like that, all the actions, what you created, committed, that ended. So that is another cause of your death. The third is that ayu and kamma kaya. So you ended both. You expire both your age and your actions. That is the third cause of death. And the fourth is that accident. So in this case of corona, I guess that it is something we have to accept, that is a natural creation which is challenging us. And when you are not ready to challenge, of course, we fall as a victim. It is not about the karma. It is not about something we always throw the blame to someone else. But the things is keep changing. The change bring sometimes good and bad. And unfortunately, this coronavirus bring bad things to us. Another question is that, how do the mechanism of having a Buddhist study in the different parts of India? This is a big another subject, I guess. When we think of the Buddhist study, at the moment, we have a very structured Buddhist studies which we can exercise in the monastery, which we exercise in the university and colleges. But the first step of Buddhist study, I would say that, how can we study yourself? With the principle we can see from the Buddha's teachings. So if we can do that, the Buddhist study as a real degree-based Buddhist study will be easy to do that. Because one way of developing all the courses for Buddhist studies, that, of course, there is a big meganamous text in Buddhism, not only Tripitaka, commentary, sub-commentary, and so, which can learn for whole life, and we can't finish that. But at the same time, to put in a perspective, we can put it as all the degrees, all the level of our discourses. And again, these days, we should know how to apply it, to be creative, what we call is 4.0 educations. It is not only memorizing, but able to use all this technique and technology in order to apply those teachings in our lives, to make our life easier, to make our life more comfortable than we are facing at the moment. So therefore, we will see that all these questions we are facing in our life is very, very critical period we are facing at the time. Especially in this pandemic, we are facing such a terrible disaster all over the world. And I have to think that all the health staff, health authority have to be sadhu for their effort, their dedication. Especially in Indian context, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Contentment General Hospital are working day and night for COVID. So we have to think of their dedications, their commitment, which they are showing their knowledge and their expertise for people who are suffering with this coronavirus. We need more that kind of bodhisattva these days. When we refer to the bodhisattva, we always think that it is kind of the Buddha to be. But if you understand, we all are on the path to be a Buddha. We all are bodhisattva in one way or another. But in the case of the coronavirus, we can see the more visible bodhisattvas these days, more easier, because what we have seen, all these health authority doctors are dedicating for the happiness, for the safety of humankind is such a dedication that we can't imagine what they have done to save a simple life. So therefore, we might say, we might think our Vesak is such an important day that we can bring the messages of the Buddha, the awakened one, and able to apply it in our life. Our life is uncertain. So that's why we always think we need to find some refuge. We need to find some guidance in order to find a way where we can follow and make our life little pleasurable than what we are now. So stanza, what we always chant these days in every temple, in every Buddhist, the simple word is the Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. What does it mean? We chant it, we memorize it, we remember so well, and we thought that that is a way to greet our appreciation to the Buddha. But Buddha never encouraged to appreciate him. Buddha says that the best worship for Buddha is the practice he's teaching. And basically, in the stanza of Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa is the very important message of Vesak itself again. Because Namo, it is not only Namaha, but it means that taking things inside your heart, inside your mind. That is what we call Namaha. Follow, that is a word from the mana, the think, the practice. Practice what? Bhagavato, the compassionate one. As I said earlier, compassion is basically a very important idea for us to live together in a society. So therefore, how do you live in society? You need to have a compassion. A compassion basically means that you are always relating yourself with others. Bhaga. Imagine in our word, in our cultures, we always said Bhagavan. What is Bhagavan? Even the Buddha, we say that a Bhagavan Buddha. Bhagavan is the word from the word Bhaga. Bhaga means that the luck, sometimes we translate it. But to more simplifying the word Bhaga, Bhaga basically means that to make things or to see things as one of the others. So whose Bhaga? Whose part is that? We are somebody because of these other people. So we are partial of the bigger part. Everyone is a small partial only, or a small part only in a holistic approach. So once you're able to realize that, you become Bhagavan. Whenever you think that you are there for such a reason. For example, I'm a monk because there is a laities. That's why my monkhood has become meaningful. So if you are a father, it means that you need to have a son or daughter. You need to have a child, whether it is your own child or it is an adopted child. So that means that you are relating yourself, the functions of father, with someone else. So therefore, the Buddha's idea is that this is the whole idea of a Bhagava or Bhagavan, is that you are always think in the ground of others. You are always think yourself related with the interaction you are creating within that subject, that topic. That is a Bhagavan. That is a Bhagava. Not egocentric and look at all others as the slave, all others as part of the accessories which make you most important person in that context. That is not a Bhagavan. Bhagavato basically means that we have to bring the idea and knowledge and able to see yourself in perspective of others. Then you can be a Bhagavato. You can be a Bhagavan. You can be a compassionate one. Your passion is always based on a common passion. That is the Bhagavato. What is Arahato? Arahato is another word we always hear from the Buddhist monks, and we always hear or read in the Buddhist text. It's called Arahanta. Arahanta or Arahato basically means that how do you relate yourself as a Bhagava? Once you relate that you are a smaller part of a bigger things, a bigger world, then you have to act accordingly. If you think that you are a certain small part, but if you are trying to occupy more than what you need, that is not a Bhagavan. So therefore, in order to make yourself a true Bhagavan, a Bhagavato, you have to act accordingly. So that is Arahanta. Hanta means that pardoning, for the severing, killing. Killing what? Enemy, Ari. But the Ari, the enemy here is basically a mental enemy. As I said before, as I said earlier, that we are always challenged by the greed. We are always challenged by, I like this, I don't like that. We are always challenged by hatred. We are always challenged by the ignorance. Therefore, we thought that when we think of acting accordingly, the true understanding of who we are as a Bhagava, as a part of the whole thing, then we have to reduce what we call our incentive of living together. The greed, the hatred, the ignorance, all those things have to be killed. All those things has to be thrown away in the garbage bin, because you can't be a part of something if you have a big amount of greed, hatred, and delusions. Because with the greed, hatred, and delusion, you want more space. Your body becomes floated and so big. You need this and that more than anyone else. You will have hundreds and thousands of reasons to support that why you need this. But immediately, once you see yourself in perspective of others, all your requirement, all the understanding as who you are immediately changes perspective. That if you can help others, it means that you are helping yourself. Not helping yourself, it's become helping others in one way. But when we look at, if we look from the perspective of helping yourself, suddenly you are looking at others as a slave, as something else. It's alienating yourself from the others. But if you look at that, you are the part of this whole community. You are the part of this whole nation. So if you are trying to save the nation, if you are trying to save your community, if you are trying to act yourself irrelevant to where you are living, what you got it. So immediately, that is the whole idea of Arahatu or Arahanta. How can you do that? By having a Samma Sambuddho. Samma Sambuddho. Buddha means that knowing. Sam means that by yourself. Samma means that which makes you calm or which can end all the kind of suffering. Samma is, of course, sometimes we translate as the correct, the proper, the noble. But in fact, it is a proper, it is a noble, it is a correct, because it is not creating any suffering further. So therefore, we have to realize, we have to understand, it is kind of a cognitive process we have to develop in order to realize the reality of the world, reality of yourself, when you are comparing with others in the society. That is simple meaning of Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So whenever we chant Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, just don't take it as a sacred mantra, but take it as something very essential guidance to guide your behavior, to guide your thought, to guide your life. Whatever you do, whatever you speak, whatever you think, always think in the line that you are part of the society. You are a small factor of this whole world. And then act accordingly, think accordingly. Immediately, you can change this world. Immediately, you can transform this world to a heaven, because everyone will be happy around you, because the way you think is always not biased, not a greed, not a hatred, but it's always amicable. It is always peace dedicated. It is always happy dedicated. It's always prosperous dedicated. So this is the essence of the Buddha's message all about. So how can we use those teachings in our daily life? We say that Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Of course, when we chant that, it sometimes gives us such a peace feeling. It calms our mind with this mantra, it is chanting. But is that all? Of course not. When we say Buddhang saranang gacchami, basically we are dedicating, we are emphasizing, we are teaching ourselves that we should take wisdom as our guideline of our path of living. Buddha means awakening. It is a symbolize of the prajna, it's a symbolize of wisdom. So that's why whenever we do all the kind of chanting and rituals, we light the candles. Why we light the candles? It is not for the warmth we light. It is not to expel the darkness, but symbolically, it is true. Symbolically, when the candle is lit, it expels the darkness. Through that symbolism, we are teaching ourselves that with the prajna, with the panya, with the wisdom, we should be able to expel all the darkness we have in our mind, all the ignorance we got in our mind. Use the panya, use the prajna, use the wisdom to dispel it. That is a simple teaching. That is a simple teaching tool we can get very close to us. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dharmang saranang gacchami. Again, what is dharma? Dharma is principle. Dharma is a truth. Dharma is a upholding. Dharma is a sustainability. Even these days, we are talking about a sustainable development. That is exactly what dharma all about. So I take dharma as a refuge. Basically means that you have to use the principle to guide your life in daily life. So that is a dharma. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Then we have a sanghang saranang gacchami. What is sangha? Sangha is a community. Sangha means a group. Sangha means a society. Sangha means assembly. So in order to live in the society, what we need is that we have to understand our community. Once we are able to understand our community, once we are able to live in our society, that is basically means that a sanghang saranang gacchami. So it is very simple. When you say that I take refuge in a sangha, means that whatever society you are living in, you have to follow some kind of a social standard in able to make your life more comfortable. So that is a simple Buddhism. Buddhism talk about the wisdom, the knowledge. Buddhism talk about the principles which make you a perfect human being, and Buddhism talk about the society which you create a society and the society create you. Then we talk about the 5 precepts. Actually, it is wrong to call precept, to be honest. Sila basically means teaching. The sila basically means the normality, the reality, the satisfaction, its sufficiency. It's all about sila. Sila is another word, is a sila, which means that a stone, the heaviness, the stiffness, the firmness of your mind. So when we take a refuge and the 5 precepts, for example, panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, basically means that you are going to accept samadhiyami. Accept what? Sikkhapadang. Accept to study, to learn. Padang, the lesson. Lesson of what? Veramani, avoiding. Avoiding what? Panatipata, cutting the life, the prana. So it is not saying that don't kill, as we generally understood. It means that you have to be cognized of the reality and a pro and con of killing or harming some other animals, some other creatures, some other lives. And once you know the reason behind that, you will avoid by itself. Similarly, adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, you dedicate yourself to study the lesson of taking things, taking goods, which is not given to you. The third is kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. In many cases, we translate that it is a sexual misconduct. But etymologically, it is hinting us to a more wider and a more sensible way. That is a sensual misconduct. Sensual misconduct means that you have to behave yourself, how you use your eyes, how you use your nose, how you use your ears, how you use your mouth, and how you use your body. So if you are using those senses in a way obstructing or in a way that you are destroying the human rights, you are not following the human rights, that is basically the third sila means. So as a normal human, you wouldn't go and destroy someone's right. You always respect someone's right. So it is not about Buddhism, you see. It is about a normal human, a humanity. The fourth sila, I dedicate myself not to tell lie, to study the lesson of telling lie. Again, we are not saying that you shouldn't tell lie, because we know for sure many doctors tell lies. When they find the patient, if the patient is in some critical situations, many doctors may tell you a lie, because if you tell the truth, you might die sooner than you expected. So you have to tell lie in that sense. In English, we call white lies. But it's not about telling lies, but about intention of hiding something which is the truth. So that again, you have to learn yourself the pro and con of that. Sura meraya majapamadatana. We always think of alcohol and a drug and so, abusing after all the drugs and drinks. But actually, doesn't matter. It is a drug or drinks. But the main point of the fifth precept is that which make you unconscious, which makes you pramada. So Buddha's idea is that to be apramada, you have to be mindful. And all those substances make you mindless. Even coffee, even tea, if you make you mindless, it is included in the Sura Meraya as well. So if you are able to understand Buddhism in this tone, based on the Pali, based on how Buddha taught, it will touch your heart and make you a true Buddhist without announcing yourself as a Buddhist. Because your behavior is a Buddhist. Your speech is become a Buddha's word. Your association in the community become a very compassionate community.
It was so interesting, Bante, and actually, I was the one who asked the question about that corona. So I was very curious, like why so many of people they have to die because of such an epidemic. You very in detail you asked you gave the answer for that.
I think I have covered most of the questions which I got through. Did I cover all the questions? Hello, it's what's going on now?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, Bante. Yeah.
Yes.
I have one more last question to ask. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. How much is enough?
Pardon? Repeat the question again.
How much is enough?
How much is enough?
Yes.
Yes, it is a very relevant question at the moment, because in Buddhism we have got word about santosa, and the word santos or the contentment, and there is another such thing as how much. It is depends on the who you are. It is not about how much. It is about how much you can take, how much you are allowed to take. Imagine when we think of something very close to us. When we pour the water in the glass, what do you say? If the glass is going to be full, what do you say? Of course, you say enough. Because you know that if it is a water is overflow, it spill all over, it makes dirty. And although you know that the water is so precious, you will say you have one glass and you say enough, enough, enough. But let's change, and then let you pour the money into your glass. What you will say when the glass is about to fill? What do you say? Do we say enough? No, you say more and more and more, because you are saying more and more and more, because you don't understand the value of that money. You think that if you have money, you can get more water. But of course, it doesn't work in that way. Money is only a kind of a factors to get the water. The reality, the essence of water, it has itself, because without water, you can survive. But we can't, without money, you can still survive. So in terms of enoughness, from the Buddhist point of view, is that you should know what is enough when you yatha labha santosa. You should know the contentment of whatever you get it. And with the result, you should know that it is enough for you. Yatha bala santosa means that you should know your energy. You should know yourself that how much you can dedicate, how much you can put up. And that is the second contentment. The third is a yatha sarupa santosa. Basically means that it has to be the based on the reality, the cause and effect. So that's why the how much is enough is different for each individual. We don't have a standardized enoughness. Enoughness is depends on each individual, but it rely on that the greediness or the whatever you wanted, it is creating the self-suffering and the other suffering or community suffering. That is totally wrong with the enough. With the word enough, you have to go with the word that I'm satisfied, other people are satisfied. I'm happy, and others are happy as well. And as long as I'm happy, others are happy in a proper way, in a dharmic way. And that is what I define as enough. Towards the end of my talk, I would say that whatever we do in this very important day of Vesak as a celebration, it is not a kind of a party way of celebrating. It is a celebrating of our awakening. It is a celebration of our opening of our eyes to see the Dharma. Therefore, may I give my blessings to all who is in the path of this searching for their way to gain such a happiness and such a peace, and able to fight with the whatever the crisis you are fighting through in your life. All of you may success and able to find peace in your search. Abhivadana silissa nichang buddha pachayino chattaro dhamma vaddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang siddhamattu idang palang etasming ratanatayasming sabbasadana cetaso bhavatu sabbamangalang rakhantu sabbadevata sabbabuddhanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te bhavatu sabbamangalang rakhantu sabbadevata sabbadhammanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te bhavatu sabbamangalang rakhantu sabbadevata sabbasanghanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. May everyone enjoy the peace and happiness through the practice of the Buddhism. Thank you.